Hello, my name is Thomas Scoulidis. I'll be taking you through a lesson that my colleagues and I created for a Year 4 science class. I'll take you through the first half of the lesson, and my colleague Matthew Armstrong will take you through the second half of the lesson. The objectives will be for the students to know the difference between a living and non-living thing based on their observable features. They will also need to know how to use QR codes and how to create their own storyboard on a website called Storyboard That. Now they have a lot of prior knowledge on the substance, the content, the difference between non-living and living things based on their observable features. They need to use that now with these ICT tools to do a nice project, to create something, and then that will be used by the teacher as a form of assessment after the lesson. Okay, class, I'm going to write some things on the whiteboard and I'm going to then ask what you think the difference between the two is. So let's try dog, because I love dogs. Bottle, like a water bottle. Chair. Cow. Bat. Human. Maybe one more over here. Could probably go couch. Okay, could someone please tell me what these are? What's the difference between these two based on what you learned in the last lesson? Yes. Correct. These things on this side are non-living. The things on this side are living. Now, can you tell me how you know that? They're living because they have a heart. Yes. Because they can breathe. Yes. So like the checklist in the last lesson, they need water, they need food, they need oxygen. I mean, a water bottle might have water in it, but it doesn't need it to survive. The water bottle will be fine. So, living, non-living. Now I'm going to ask everyone quietly when I say your name to return to your seats, please. We are then going to start our activity. Now, I will need you all to listen closely as I will explain what we will be doing today. Today we'll be using the iPads to scan some QR codes which are located around the classroom. Now when you scan each of these codes, they will give you either a habitat or an animal. Now I need you all to scan one animal and one habitat. If you scan multiple, just choose your favorite one, just one habitat, one animal. You will return to your desks. I will then explain what you'll be doing next with those animals and habitats. Okay, so after the explicit teaching, the students will be back at their desks. They'll be sitting behind their desk. The student leaders could hand out the iPads to each of the students, and then the teacher will select students however they like, but just not everyone at the same time, to get up and go scan some QR codes, which will be scattered around the room. The teacher will do this before the lesson. So for example, this is a QR code. You could print them, laminate them however you like. So you wouldn't put phones around the room. You would probably print them, laminate them, stick them around the room, get your QR codes everywhere. It's almost like a treasure hunt. The teacher will remind the students again how the activity will run, and then a few students at a time, they will go up around the room and scan a couple of QR codes until they have one animal and one habitat. The teacher will give them a very brief time limit to do this because they need to get into the activity, and every student needs to get up and scan their QR codes so they can begin their activity. So it'll run basically like this. QR code on the wall. Students will use their iPads. This is an iPad. They will walk up to the QR code. They will hover over it, and they will find a link. They will then click the link, and the link will take them to Britannica Kids page. Now, you have a better view on a bigger laptop or an iPad. You can't see the full page, but there's pictures, there's lots of information. This one's on the desert. So this would be their habitat. They have all the information on the desert. They will use this for their next part of the activity, which will be them creating their storyboards with the animal and the habitat they get. Now they can be creative, they can have fun with it, but the guidelines will be basically have a fact about the living thing, about the animal, and have some kind of connection of why it belongs or doesn't belong in the habitat that has been chosen for it. And then if they would like to, they can throw in an extra slide of the animal finding its true habitat. So a lobster going from the desert to the ocean and its journey. A brief storyboard, they will have time to do it. It'll be a fun creative project, and this is what my colleague Matthew Armstrong will be taking you through. He'll be exhibiting how he would be delivering this to his students in the best way he can from his home on his laptop. Thank you very much.
Once you've scanned your QR codes, you can come back to the desk and we'll get stuck into the activity. Alright, we're going to be using an app called Storyboard, and this app is where we create stories. We can do up to 6 pages, and today we're going to be creating short stories on animals in their different habitats. On Storyboard, that you can see that you can create different scenes with different characters, and you can also add speech bubbles for your text. Now, I have done an example for you guys just so you know what to base your stories around. So just say I scanned my QR code and I got a killer whale, and the habitat I got was on land, but I've used the picture of a jail cell here, but it's on land, out of water is the same thing. Now, in my story, oh no, this is not the right habitat for me, the whale says. The next page, I have 2 fins to help me swim in the water, but doesn't help me out on land. And then the third scene, he is back in the water. Ah, this is much better. Now I can breathe better through my blowhole. So that's my short story. And in your short stories, you're going to, with your characters and your habitats, you're going to need to list at least 2 observable features I listed in my story that will help distinguish between living and non-living things. 1, the whale has 2 fins that help it swim in water, and the other one was a blowhole that whales have at the top of their head that they use to breathe when they come up out of the water, breathe in, and then they go back underwater. And those are the 2 features that help me know that it is an animal that belongs in the water. It is a living thing that belongs in the water. Now, this killer whale isn't in the right habitat, so I did it so that he'd eventually be in the right habitat. But you might get an animal that is actually in the correct habitat, so you'd base your stories around that animal being in the correct habitat, and you wouldn't have him changing into the correct habitat because he's already... Everyone is going to be logging onto Storyboard and going to be creating their own storyboards. So using your character that you got off your QR code and your habitat, you can now log on to Storyboard and start creating your own short stories. You're going to have about 20 to 25 minutes to create this storyboard, and I'm going to be moving around the room, checking on everyone and making sure you're on the right track. And if you have any help, raise your hand and I'll come and help you out. And just remember the 2 observable features of that animal. When we're creating our stories, we could have easily just used pen and paper, written down a story, and that would have been that. But who liked the fact that we were able to get the iPads out, create a story with a background, characters all online. We're using speech bubbles. Yeah? Okay. Now, who knows any complications we could run into when using online or ICT? Yep, Wi-Fi couldn't work, the app would crash. You've all done a tremendous job with your storyboards. Now, can I get everyone to get out, bring their iPads and come down to the mat, as we are going to share some of the stories that we've written. Okay. Now, I'm going to need 3 volunteers to share their stories. 1, 2, 3. Alright, you can all come up to the front with your iPads, but don't show show the class your stories yet. Before you read your story, you're going to say what animal you scanned. And then as a class, we're going to have a discussion and decide which habitat we think it best belongs in. Now, this is the animal or plant, so we've got to decide which habitat we think the animal or plant best belongs in. Now, once you've shared, and then you're going to share your story. And then after you've shared your story, we're going to decide which two observable features will help us determine which habitat they belong in, or which class they belong in. Non-living objects or living things. Non-living or living.